Okay, so I'm gonna do this real quick. I did a video, but it was over an hour long, and I didn't want it to take an hour for me to teach you, for me to teach anyone anything. So I'm really sorry about that. I did all of this in real time before, and it was a pain. So I want to show you guys how to do splash screens and a title of sorts. I'm not gonna teach you a lot of a lot of detailed things, really. I'm going to give you the gist, and I want you to learn with the software. I think that's what a lot of people need to do is learn with the software. But making splash screens is really easy. I'm not going to teach how to make a proper title screen. I think there's already other videos for that. I could be wrong. But I will teach you how to make a splash screen and go between each object. I use objects for every visual aspect of a scene, of a splash screen. A splash screen in and of itself, the way I do it, is a scene. So let's go over here. I've actually already done this. I've already done the work. Yay. Okay, you're gonna make however many splash screens you want. There's probably a way to do this with one scene and one sit through, but I find it a little easier to move my scenes into different or move my different things into different scenes. So this is for the logo that's going to pop up. This is for the information that pops up, and this is for the title screen. These are all objects using animations. So let's go into animations. These are everything. This is it right here. These three are for the logo. I decided to be really fun with the logo. And I'm having the logo has a fade in it and a showing and then a fade out. So it does this, bada boom. This is for just sitting there doing nothing, and then we have the fade out, bada boom, bada boom, and bada boom. And that's just for sitting there. I'm doing that just for the logo for my little studio thing. This has nothing. Literally nothing. You don't have to use walls or collision detections, because the way this is going to work is you're going to tell it as an object to not move anywhere. It's not going to move anywhere. It's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to do anything. It's going to sit there. It's not going to go anywhere. So when you make your animations and whatnot for however you want things to show up in your objects and whatnot, you're going to add them to objects. So you want to add, like for this guy right here, I have it going through all kinds of things. You're also going to want switches. That's the other thing. So in your resources, go over to your switches for common. I would use common. I wouldn't use anything else. I have 3 so far because I have 3 different scenes. There's the logo splash screen, info splash screen, and title splash screen. All right. Initially, they are off, all of them, because you're turning them on to go to the next thing. That's how I go about it. So we have an object. It's going to go through different things here, and this very last thing is what will make it go to the next scene. So what happens is at the very end of it, it turns on a switch. Okay. The switches are necessary because what it'll do is in the transitions, as they call it. I wouldn't call it that, but that's what they call it. You're going to want to set up each scene for the for each to teleport, because it does it on its own. Which reminds me, this is something that I don't think everybody knows, but I figured it out, and that's when you go to your projects up here, you go to your settings, player management. You don't want to put the actual player object in a level. You don't want to do that. You actually want to come to this thing right here, and for whatever player, if it's a one-player game, you come in, you pick the graphic for it, and you pick the object for it and set it. There it is, Andy. So that's how that's done. And you set Andy in whatever level. Whatever his first level is going to be that you're going to teleport between is going to be set right here in a stage. But you're going to set your actual starting in the splash screen right here. So you're setting it, right click it and set as start scene. It'll put the flag there. Even though the flag's down here over him, that's just for the levels and jumping in between. The actual start of the game, where everything starts when you boot the game up, should be this splash screen right here. Should be this scene. there is an object here. Let me go to the objects real quick. It's right here. You can't see it because of the morphing thing that it does. If you happen to do a bunch of animation weird things between objects, you can always go into the object and set it to the one that's proper, that's going to show up proper, and then move it around and center it to where you need it. And then you can go back over here and go back to default action. That way it knows to go through. But it's going to go through each thing in the object. And to go through, I'm sorry if I'm a little all over the place here, but it'll do this. It'll do this on its own. Of just if this motion plays to the end. Motion is the animation that you set up for the object. It'll sit to this. Now to go to this, to have the switch and everything, I actually have it set up for two different things. You can either, one, press a button and it goes on press and it goes to fade out, remove the thing, or after a certain time passes, which is about 3 seconds. Okay? And then what it'll do is flip the switch, and then in the transitions, it'll flip the switch and it'll tell it to go to the next scene, which is done right here. It's actually looking for that switch. Nothing else here is checked. You can put it as change if all conditions are met or if any condition is met. Just put it, leave it on any, unclick anything else that's here. All you want is switches, just the switch. Because the object is going to tell the switch to flip and tell it to go to the next scene. So we have this, and there it is. And it's going to go to the, it's going to flip that switch, which then tells it, oh, we're going to go to this scene, which is this scene. That has the info. The info has its own object as well, if I'm not mistaken. So it'll be this thing right here. All right. So what we have here is it tells it to mosaic effect and fade in. You can use that with apply filter effect on object. And that's one for mosaic, and you'll have to add another one for the transparency effect. It's 100% transparent, and you have that set for a second. Like there's no time. It's 0 right there. Time until completion 0 because you want it instantly. Okay, it's set to that, and then it's told to go after a certain time passes. You can have it like 0.01. It's like tiny little piece of a second. You know, it doesn't matter. And when it does that, it'll then trigger this stuff, which then tells the object to switch, which reduces, this one will reduce the mosaic effect down to nothing, to no mosaic effect, and this one will, for the transparency, even though that's still like that, it doesn't really matter. And then it'll, what you want to pay attention to whatever you got for the timer. It's 1 second. So this is told to either after a button is pressed or after 4 seconds, actually. I'm such an idiot. It doesn't really matter. That's how long it takes for that to happen. And then it'll go to this, and then it'll do those fade effects. It'll fade out for a second. It'll do the mosaic, and it'll do the transparency for that object, which is right here. You're telling it to transparency 100%. For the same amount of time, and then that'll make it kind of do that crinkly, blocky effect at the same time that it fades to dark or fades out because the background's black anyways. So, and then it'll wait right here about a second, and then this will tell the other switch. You have to have the other switch, which is this one right here, info switch. Info switch goes to title. So in the scenes, it'll go from here to here when it flips that on. The very last one is for the object for the title. I've got nothing special added to that. So what happens with the title is there's really nothing. This tells it the game to start. So right here, if you press the button, press a button, right? It'll go to this thing, which flips on this switch, which is the oh, it's not set to that anymore. Oh, that's right. We're not using that anymore. I don't think. Yeah, we are. So why is it doing that? Not set. Switch, not set. Oh, that's right. We're not doing that anymore. I forgot. You can actually delete that. We're not using that. So it's just going to sit there. Because by the time it gets to this one, and you don't have to do it this way either. Like if you're going to add effects to your title screen and whatnot, you can use that object and do all those kind of things like you did with the other objects. Like you did with these, but applied to this to do different things along with whatever animations you have set up. Okay? So to get to the last thing that sends you, after the title screen, which, to be honest, this stuff doesn't really matter, but I've done it quickly to show you how to get to that. But if you want a more complex title screen, somebody else is there. Hopefully somebody else has done a tutorial video for that, because that's not me. That's not my department, because I haven't figured that completely out yet. So that's why I said I wasn't going to go into a lot of detail. So to go from here to here, actually, instead of using the objects like I did with the first two, I'm actually using the map itself and the conditions here. So instead of using a switch or variable, I'm using 2 seconds or on a press. So the following has been press, A on press. And then it'll fade to black here for about a second. And then you don't even have to fade it like that. You can like put it to half of that actually if you wanted to. Let's 0.30. Yeah, and then from here I have it to nothing, but that's because I set up a really quirky transition to show the character when the stage starts. So I hope I'm able to explain this to you well enough. It's pretty simple stuff, really. Once you learn to use the software, a lot of this stuff is pretty simple to pull off. It's not real complicated. It's not programming. You're not sitting there and typing out all this code and whatnot, so it's pretty easy. It's like the code is already there for you, and you're just using logic. You're using logic within a flowchart to do these things. So now we're going to get to the part now where I'm going to show you how I did this, how this was done. Okay. So, or not how it's done, but how it turns out. So now we'll show you this. There's that. Because I did all kinds of cool things there. And then that. You can hit a button to skip past it. There we go. And it'll move onward. Then there's fire. That needs to start instantly, but that's a different thing. So there we go. And then it starts the game. For a more complex menu, somebody else is going to have to teach that. That is not my department. That's not something I've even learned yet. So I'm pretty sure it's not that complicated, actually. I'm pretty sure, again, you would use objects at the bottom to access certain features and whatnot within the software, within your project, which would then help you go on to the next thing. So, oh my goodness, let's go to the webcam. So I hope that helps. I hope that this little video was helpful. As soon as I have the money, I'm going to have a blue screen behind me. Actually, I think I have the money now, but I'm taking little steps. I'm going to get a new microphone. It's going to be a really nice one that sits here. That was an awkward motion. I'm sorry, but it is. It's going to come up right here, and a thing that comes down here, and it'll hang over, and I'll talk. Oh, that was inappropriate. That was very inappropriate, and I apologize profusely. With this software, you don't actually have to do any kind of programming to do kind of things like, it's like they thought ahead. They thought ahead of ways that you're going to be able to use the software to pull off the kind of things you would see in Super Nintendo games and whatnot. Especially if you're a fan of that. I grew up playing Super Nintendo games. So everything that I'm doing is Super Nintendo looking. It's either Sega Genesis or Super Nintendo looking. A lot of that you saw is temporary. Like, that might not even be the final thing that I do with the visuals of my game. But I needed something to throw together to show how to do this. And I hope my explanations made sense. If they do not, if you need a little more information, let me know and I will try and make another video explaining a little better. But it's real simple stuff. It's so simple. Like, there's no way you can actually get this wrong. It's objects and scenes, and it's transitions through the screen flow. There's screen flow and portal transfer. Portal transfers are between stages. You literally tell an object to go between the stages that you're in. But that should help you, at least for those who are just trying to figure out splash screens. Splash screens are so easy. I use objects for the extra animations and whatnot, but you could also just use tile sets. Like this whole thing right here could have been done in a tile set. I'm just saying. This could have been done in a tile set. Even though I didn't do it in a tile set, it could have been. This could be done in a tile set. But if you want more fancy looking visuals like I did with this, like I did with the very beginning right here, let's show it again. Show it again real quick. This right here. Then you're going to want to use objects and animations. You're going to want to use this stuff. You're going to want to. I need to redo my logo because I feel like it's too big on the screen. And then, blah, blah. So I hope that helps. I really do hope that helps. And if it doesn't, I guess, you know, come back and ask for additional information. I'll try and make another video explaining whatever maybe I missed or maybe you're not quite understanding. And for that matter, there's actually a I didn't go to it a while ago, but there's a couple of Discord groups. A bunch of folks there can actually help. Lord knows they've helped me quite a bit. You can always go there, like if there's more that you need to know, because I think some of them have figured this stuff out as well. But, you know, if there's people out there that are like me, videos help. That's why I've done the video. Video tutorials help with this kind of stuff. And I try to make it as quickly as possible, and I try to be as energetic as possible. I've watched other tutorials by other folks, and I won't name names, but those tutorials seem to be... They lack energy, they're kind of boring, and they're kind of hard to watch. And I tried to be as direct to the point with this as possible, so I hope it helps. That's all I've got. Happy developing. Bye.